Welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program. I'm Kelsey Keesley.
And I'm Kendra Cook. The Southwest TV Translator Association underwrites the news, and Dolores County Broadcasting Network provides the support for DCTV.
Here at the News at Noon show, we assemble the best and most interesting news we can find from the area, and Jerry Tote brings you the local weather and related news. Give us a call with news tips or topics you'd like to see covered. The number is 677-4119.
We appreciate that you're watching DCTV. Today's show is live on Monday at noon and rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. and again re-aired on Thursday at noon, 2:30 and 8. It's November 14th, 2016. Here's the news. Whichever winner there is in any given election for the course of our republic, the population comes together, sometimes begrudgingly, but always for the benefit of the nation-state as a whole. This time there seems to be a seated and accepted or even encouraged sense of aggression from those whose candidate didn't win that defies all common sense logic. Take the time to look behind some of the post-presidential election demonstrations, and you can easily see how misinformation is being coddled in order to create and sustain discontent for agenda-driven purposes. Keep a people divided and you control them. The Cortez Journal reported from Denver that Governor John Hickenlooper here in Colorado is calling for unity after a divisive election in which he himself had earlier described Republican Donald Trump as a narcissistic fraud. His comments Thursday came just hours before thousands of protesters voiced their concerns with the Trump presidency, marching around the Colorado Capitol and throughout downtown Denver, shutting down roads and highways as police corralled the large group. For here, thankfully, it was mostly peaceful protesters, with no arrests, and police used limited amounts of pepper spray to take down the aggression level. The event was part of actions seen in key liberal locales across the country. Hickenlooper cautioned against vitriol in the wake of the election. Sitting in his office, he read a quote from Abraham Lincoln after Lincoln had won a polarizing race. The quote reads, "The strife of the election is but human nature practically applied to the facts of the case." Hickenlooper added, "This was a bitter election, which reflects how deeply and intensely people's emotions were engaged. Yet you don't see those supporting Trump taking to the streets. We had already reported on how Trump rallies before the election were peppered with phony agitators paid for by the opposing side." The Colorado Democratic governor, one of Hillary Clinton's top surrogates, made Clinton's short list for vice president, but was not selected. Hickenlooper also was eyed for a cabinet position, which is now off the table, of course. But Hickenlooper isn't shutting the door on serving in the Trump administration. He said in a truly politically savvy comment, "If the President of the United States says, 'I need you,' it's hard to say no," he said, noting that he has never met the president-elect. Protesters outside the Capitol later in the day spewed hateful comments and talking point canned sedacious terms towards the president-elect. State Representative Joe Salazar, Democrat of Thornton, an ardent Bernie Sanders supporter who ultimately betrayed him and backed Clinton, marched with the protesters. Here's a quote you wouldn't expect from an elected official. He said, "It's always cool to be part of history, to witness it and to actually be in the midst of it," Salazar said after participating. "This is going to be written about. This is going to be in our history books, that people repudiated the hatred that we see coming from this president-elect." And that seems to be the core of the disinformation monger's message. Selective trigger words like racist and xenophobe are thrown around without care or concern for what their actions may result in terms of chaos and distraction. And all of this based on political rhetoric, not actual presidential actions taken, as Trump doesn't take office until January 2017. So back here at home in Colorado, the Democratic governor is closely watching to see if the Trump administration will make significant changes to health care policy. He has said he would repeal Obamacare, but wants to keep pre-existing conditions and children into their 20s on their parents' plan still a part of the revised system. Without much fortitude for what we all know to be the right way to act as people post-election, and as we always have to this date, Hickenlooper has this to say as for protesting that might include violence, property damage, and burning Trump in effigy, as has been seen at events throughout the country. He said, "I'm not sure that's constructive. This is one country, and we're going to have our differences, and I think it's important to keep discussing those differences," he said. The governor has 2 years left in his administration until being challenged or running again, as we still don't have term limits across the country, something this election selection may address in the future.
According to the Cortez Journal, Southwest Open School closed and canceled classes on Thursday, citing heightened feelings of tension and disagreements among students, according to a statement on the school's website. "Our students have been impacted by a number of high-profile events that have taken place in our community recently, including several student suicides," the statement reads. "This week we have experienced students grappling with both of these and have seen a sharp change in student behavior and related safety issues. During the regular semester, SWOS does not hold classes on Fridays, so classes will resume at the school today. Administrators made the decision to close school doors on Thursday to give staff time to plan for effective student support, including suicide prevention resources, according to the statement. School staff met Thursday to discuss how to address issues of depression and suicide with students, as well as conflict resolution and healthy dialogue, the website states. This decision was made in the best interest of the safety and welfare of SWOS students and staff, the statement reads. People with questions or concerns are encouraged to contact SWOS Director Charlotte Wolf at 970-565-1150.
On the continuing saga post-Gold King mine spill, as reported in the Durango Herald, the Environmental Protection Agency will hold community meetings this week in Durango, Shiprock, and Silverton to provide an update on the Bonita-Peking Mining District Superfund site. The EPA says a recap of activities undertaken at the BPMD over the last year will be provided, along with an opportunity to talk one-on-one about work being done at the site. In its November update, the EPA provided a list of completed activities, which include minor work at the Brooklyn mine, installing 2 meteorological stations, a precipitation gauge, and a full weather station around the Superfund site. The EPA and BLM also installed 4 groundwater wells at the Kitimak tailings between Howardsville and Eureka to establish the depth of the water table and define groundwater flows. The EPA announced it has completed its site reconnaissance at each source area included in the Bonita Peak Mining District and will use that information to draft a plan for cleanup. The mining district near Silverton includes 48 sites targeted for cleanup under Superfund work, which it will prioritize with information gathered this year. As you'll recall, the Superfund designation came a little more than a year after EPA contract workers breached the Gold King mine, releasing 3 million gallons of toxic mine wastewater into Cement Creek, a tributary of the Animas River. The spill led area communities and the state to seek Superfund status to get federal assistance in cleaning up mining sites. The EPA also awarded a $100,000 environmental education grant to Mountain Studies Institute. MSI proposes to collaborate with the EPA to build awareness and understanding of the Animas River watershed for residents, recreationalists, and visitors, and we'll be watching.
According to the Durango Herald, a rally in support of the Standing Rock Sioux effort to halt the Dakota Access Pipeline is planned for 11:30 a.m. Tuesday in Durango. The protesters will gather at Buckley Park, Main Avenue, and 12th Street, and plan to march on sidewalks on both sides of Main Avenue to the Wells Fargo Bank on College Drive, according to a news release. The group said it is targeting Wells Fargo because it is one of the 17 major funders of the pipeline project. The controversial project involves a 1,172-mile pipeline to carry crude oil from North Dakota oil production areas to refineries in Illinois. Much of the pipeline is complete, but protesters since summer have tried to halt construction of a tunnel under Lake Oahe. The reservoir is at the center of the Standing Rock Sioux's fight against the pipeline, which the tribe and its supporters fear could harm cultural sites and drinking water sources at the tribe's nearby reservation, the Associated Press reports. The local protesters plan to deliver a letter to the bank calling for it to halt the disbursements of loans to or investments in construction of the pipeline, according to the release. The demonstration is part of a national day of action against the Army Corps of Engineers and pipeline stakeholders.
In more land news, the Bureau of Land Management personnel were heavily criticized last Thursday for walking out of what was supposed to be a community meeting in Shiprock, New Mexico, to discuss the future of oil and gas drilling near Chaco Canyon. This was reported on by the Durango Herald, that on Thursday the BLM hosted the first of 8 planned, quote, scoping meetings in partnership with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, intended to engage members of the Navajo Nation on concerns regarding drilling as well as fracking on sacred lands. Shiprock Chapter President Dwayne Chiliyazi said the BLM had set up tables in the Shiprock Chapter House where community members were asked to line up one by one and write down their concerns. About 45 minutes in, Yazzie asked BLM staff to change the format of the meeting in a way that would allow a more open discussion so that all in attendance could hear citizen comments. Yazzie said the BLM's format just doesn't fit the mannerism and means of communication here as traditional people. In a video taken of the meeting, Richard Fields, field manager for the BLM Farmington field office, explains to the audience an open discussion is a different process than a scoping meeting, which is what this was set up to be. Yazzie again asked for open public comments, and Fields told him if that were to continue, Fields would shut down the meeting, and so they did. The handful of meetings throughout the Navajo Nation stem from an announcement last month by the U.S. Department of the Interior that we had reported on. They planned to take a closer look at planned drilling in the culturally significant region around Chaco National Historic Park. Part of that initiative included meetings throughout small communities on the Navajo Nation, many of which hold deep ties to the rich Native American sites around the area. This is not an unusual manner for the BLM to operate, by citizens being offered to write down their comments for what they call a scoping meeting, and nothing more apparently being done with that input, as it seems it simply justifies a checkmark in the bureaucratic process. Many who attended said Thursday's disturbance was not a good sign of things to come.
According to the Cortez Journal, with warm weather now behind us for the year, Colorado Parks and Wildlife urges residents to take down equipment and yard toys that cause problems for wildlife. Recently in Durango, a young buck deer became tangled in a hammock which broke off an antler and part of its skull. A resident reported seeing the deer, but wildlife officers were not able to find the animal. When we looked at the antler, we knew the deer had sustained a very serious injury, said Matt Thorpe, area wildlife manager in Durango. At this time of year, buck deer are especially active because the mating season is approaching. It's common for deer to get tangled in hammocks, volleyball nets, swing sets, tire swings, clotheslines, yard decorations, garden fencing, tomato cages, buckets, etc. Those items should be stored for the winter or covered and secured. Deer can end up with almost anything on their antlers, Thorpe said. We've even had deer with bicycles on their antlers. Every year, holiday lights also end up as decorations on the heads of deer. Lights should be attached tightly to a building, to a post or fence, and not just draped over trees or shrubs. Hang lights more than 6 feet above the ground to prevent an unexpected disappearance of those expensive decorations. If you see an animal tangled in the net or decorations, please call the near CPW office or local law enforcement. Do not approach the animal or attempt to remove items. An animal does not understand that you are trying to help it and can be very dangerous in that type of circumstance. And now here's our weather report.
The rest of today and tomorrow will be very much the same as the previous week was. There will be some high cirrus clouds passing over parts of the western slope today. Tomorrow, Tuesday afternoon, will be very slightly warmer than today. Then Wednesday, we'll see an increase in mid and high level clouds that signal the arrival of a Pacific storm. At this point, the National Weather Service is saying there will be slight chances of afternoon showers over the San Juans Wednesday. Winds will pick up and be stronger, and north of our Dolores County area they may be stronger still. As for Thursday, we will see the system's clouds and coverage widen in the very early morning and the day. The showers will increase at that same time. And what is being called an impressive shot of cold air will accompany all this. So you hunters will want to take extra care with cold weather gear and preparation. Snow flurries are likely as well for Thursday and Thursday night. Friday, the storm will move out and another high pressure will set in for the weekend. Thursday and Friday night will be in the teens, and chill factors will also be significant. In our national forecast, this low pressure system along the southeast United States coastline will move northeastward along the coast through the next few days. This system will bring rain to portions of the Carolinas and the mid-Atlantic region today and move into the northeast Tuesday and Wednesday. A front will move inland into the Pacific Northwest today. The result will be rain and high elevation snow. Another low will move onshore in the northwest on Tuesday, bringing another round of rain and high elevation snows. This second system will be associated with a deepening upper level trough. which will gradually lower snow levels across the west as it moves inland. By Tuesday night into Wednesday, snow will become more widespread across much of the Intermountain West and Northern Rockies, with rain in the valleys. Expanding high pressure will keep warm and generally dry conditions in place across much of the central United States through the midweek. Afternoon high temperatures are expected to be 15 to 25 degrees above average today and Tuesday from the central and northern plains to the upper Midwest. In our 5-day, the first 3 days of this week will be our warmest days and nights with mid to lower 60s and lows in the upper 20s, then lower 40s to lower 50s as a storm passes through, with nights getting quite cold at least Thursday and Friday night in teens, and Saturday night may be slightly warmer in the southern parts of Colorado's western slope. Now back to the news.
According to the Cortez Journal, solar power is coming to Cortez's city government. During its Tuesday meeting, the Cortez City Council voted to authorize the mayor to sign a solar lease agreement with Durango-based company Shaw Solar. The council has been considering putting up solar panels on the new city hall for some time. At the meeting, they voted 6-1 to contract with Shaw, doing business as Solar Garden Partners 2. According to the agreement, the city will essentially be renting the solar array for 5 years with annual payments of about $4,100 before paying it outright in the 6th year for $15,682. City Manager Shane Hale said the plan will allow the city to save money on electricity in the long run. He predicted the investment in solar panels would pay for itself in energy savings within the first few years of the lease. Under the lease agreement, Solar Garden will install the rooftop panels and maintain them at no extra cost, and will also give training to city employees on how to use and care for the solar array. I think this is about as good of a structure as possible, Hale said. Most of the council members quickly voiced their approval of the agreement, although a few did point out a mistake in wording that scheduled the city's final payment for 2023 instead of 6 years from now in 2022. They amended the wording in their motion to approve the lease. Ty Keel, a city council member who also teaches social studies at Montezuma Cortez High School, brought several of his students to the meeting so they could see an example of government in action. He thanked the rest of the council on their behalf for approving the solar array, saying it will save money for taxpayers and help the environment.
Atmospheric CO2 average for the week of November the 6th to the 12th is 402.76. Week before last, 402.81. 1 year ago, 400.05. And 10 years ago, 379.78. There is a myth. It goes like this. Thousands of emails between climate scientists leaked in November 2009, dubbed ClimateGate, revealed a cover-up of data that conflicted with research showing the Earth is warming. Here's a bit more on that accusation and attack or assault on the facts committed. The science is this. Yes, a hacker did access and release emails and documents from the University of East Anglia's servers, but there was no cover-up. A number of investigations were launched, including 2 independent reviews set up by the university and the Independent Climate Change Emails Review Organization and the Independent Scientific Appraisal Panel. The investigations cleared the researchers involved with the emails of scientific misconduct and found no evidence of a cover-up. If you have questions about ice coverage in and around Antarctica, listen in on tomorrow's segment.
According to the Cortez Journal, after 4 attempts, the Mancos Common Press has finally been awarded a grant to restore the building that houses its prized Cranston Press. The $89,000 grant from the Colorado State Historical Society was awarded in August, Mancos Common Press board member Tammy Graham said. After applying for the grant 3 times previously, the group almost gave up, but it was finally awarded, she said. It's primarily being used for interior restoration of the building, Graham said. Money from the grant will be used to replace the tin ceiling of the building and restore its historical character, as well as install heating systems, Graham said. The group has already received bids for the work and hopes to complete that over the winter. Board member Betsy Harrison said some of the work will be done by local contractors and some will be done by graduate students as training for restoration coursework. Programming is scheduled to start next summer with classes and an artist in residence, Graham said. The goal is to become a fully functional press shop. Harrison said the shop will have 6 letterpresses, some of which have been donated by local people who love the art form. The group also received an $11,000 donation from the Ballantyne Family Fund to commission a mural on the side of the building. Painted by Mancos artist Brad Goodell, the mural depicts the Cranston Press and workers printing with it.
Have you heard of Comic Cons? Comic books themed events attracting thousands of visitors, many dressing up in costume all across the country. Now there will be an Indigenous Comic Con, November 18th through the 20th at the National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque. Reported on in the Cortez Journal, when someone opens a comic book, turns on a video game, or just watches TV, rarely is he or she greeted by Native American characters. And when those characters are present, they are frequently little more than stereotypes. The organizers of the first ever Indigenous Comic Con seeks to change all of that. Lee Francis, director of the convention and CEO of Native Realities, a press that specializes in comic books representing indigenous cultures, says the Indigenous Comic Con celebrates all things indigenerd and bringing together the worlds of comic books, graphic novels, games, film, television, all with an indigenous perspective and to highlight the cool work that's being done by indigenous people in pop culture. Because yes, it is a thing. The convention boasts a number of guests from film, television, and video game stars like Jonathan Joss of Parks and Rec and King of the Hill, and Kenneth Horn's Supernatural Assassin's Creed 3, to comic book creators such as John Proudstar, Tribal Force, Aragon Stars, Super Indian, and Theo Tso, Captain Paiute. Aside from their contributions to pop culture, all the guests have one thing in common. They are members of tribes indigenous to North America. It's not Native American, but specifically called the Indigenous Comic Con to include this type of work all over the world. Navajo artist Ryan Singer, for instance, grew up near Tuba City, Arizona, and now lives in Albuquerque. In his words, he uses pop culture and sci-fi imagery and kind of mash it up with Native culture, and then he tries to find different meanings or different ways they can coexist together. The results are paintings featuring characters from franchises such as Star Wars reenacting famous scenes but against the backdrop of the Four Corners and the reservation. Alan Turner, a game designer and storyteller who will be there, has worked for Disney and other big companies. He's also designed the only native tabletop role-playing game called Edragor. As with most comic conventions, costumes are welcome and encouraged, though the con would like people to be considerate of the fact that it is a family event in addition to being culturally sensitive. In addition to panels, booths, and discussions appealing to geeky teens and adults, the convention will provide younger children with areas to work on costumes, movies, book readings, and musical instruments with which to play. Tickets are on sale at indigenouscomiccon.com, and they start at $45 for a 3-day pass.
And now for the Dolores County Sheriff's Roundup for the week of November 7th through the 13th. Dispatch received a complaint of an aggressive feral cat at large near a town business that appeared to have foam coming from its mouth. Animal Control was contacted and was unable to take care of the animal due to recent changes in town ordinances due to state regulatory changes. The sheriff responded to and diffused a dispute on a town street reported by a resident. A town resident reported theft of a dirt bike. A town employee reported a temporary street blockage due to repair of a water main break. That's it for today's Roundup. Stay tuned for more updates later this week.
For today's High Country happenings, Empire Electric is announcing a planned maintenance that will involve an outage of power for 4 hours plus or minus, Wednesday night, November 16th, just before midnight, being brought back online by 4 a.m. Thursday, November 17th at the Monticello station. This outage will affect all Empire Electric members living in or near Monticello and the surrounding Utah area. They apologize for any inconvenience and thank you for your patience. They suggest that any critical systems you may have running be powered down and any safeguards for backing up computers or dealing with medical equipment be implemented before the scheduled outage. Wendell Fry of Empire Electric said that Dove Creek will be out just for a brief bit at the beginning and ending of the outage. Friday, November 18th, there will be the Keenan Elliott Benefit Chili Dinner and Auction at 5 p.m. at the Louis Areola Community Center at 21176 Road S. This benefits Elliott, who was injured in an October 21st car crash. Donations may be made at the Dolores State Bank in his name as well. For more information, call 970-739-8456 or 516-1404. New Hope Floats is a horse rescue and rehab facility north of Monticello, Utah, who are in need of help to keep their operation afloat. They find forever homes for wild Mustangs and are developing programs for children, veterans, and others to work with horses. Owners Melissa and Jerome Carville run the operation. They had been operating on land near Cortez and just recently relocated this year to a new ranch area in Utah. At the facility, they train horses for pleasure, trail hunting, and pack. They have been rescuing and training horses for 22 years and are still growing. If you know of anyone who can help with any hay supplies, medicines, or cash donations, they can be contacted at 970-394-0645. The ranch is located at 1060 North Ucalo Highway 370, Monticello, Utah 84535, and you can see more of their operation on their Facebook page. All of the happenings are posted up on our Facebook page at DCTV News at Noon, along with the embedded YouTube replays of the live show and the DCTV 5-day forecast. Email us at dcbnnews@gmail.com or call the station at 677-4119 and we'll be sure to get your news on air.
Thanks for tuning in. A reminder that this program is aired live at noon Monday through Wednesday, then rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. and again aired Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the same order at noon, 2:30, and 8 p.m. each day respectively.
And again, be sure to check out our Facebook page with original stories and all of the event details. Please like us there and share the link.
For Kendra Cook, Jerry Tope, and everyone at DCTV with the News at Noon program out of Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. Thanks for watching.